I'd like to call to order this work session for the Carroll County Board of Education for June the 17th, 2024. I'd like to welcome all of our visitors and guests here with us tonight, and if you will join us, we will have our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, this time we'll start with student achievement by Dr. Jessica Ainsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Mr. Turner, members of the board, we'd like to start the student achievement update this evening with our social emotional wellness update. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Leslie Green, Assistant Director of Instructional Supports, and Ms. Lee Robinson, Director of HR. These two ladies have been vital in our social emotional wellness efforts in Carroll County schools. So just a point of privilege to thank these two ladies and everything that they've done so far, and excited about bringing in next year. And I'll turn it over to them for the update.
Thank you. So good evening. The social emotional wellness of our students and staff is a priority for Carroll County schools. Key components of social emotional wellness include self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. And these are essential for academic success, mental health, and overall well-being. So Lee and I are excited to share information about the frameworks and supports that we have in place in Carroll County for our students and staff.
Two of the main frameworks implemented in all of our schools are Capturing Kids' Hearts and PBIS. Capturing Kids' Hearts and then Coaching Greatness. That has to do with relationship building and making an environment, creating an environment where it's safe, supportive, secure, and students feel safe, they can be themselves and build high-performing teams, whether that's in the classroom or on the field, on the court, whatever. I am very pleased to say, thanks to you all, that since 2019 we have that we have had 1,233 staff members go through the Capturing Kids' Hearts experience. As far as the Coaching Greatness experience, we've had 247 coaches. So that's not just our head coaches, that's some play coaches, that's some assistant coaches. So we're very proud of those numbers, so thank you for that. Now I want to talk about some strategies of Capturing Kids' Hearts. I want to talk about the Excel model. And there's really two facets to the Excel model. The first thing is a leadership mindset, where we serve with passion, purpose, and a plan. Now, in Carroll County, we know we want to excel. We don't want to do the minimum. We don't want to be average. We want to be up there at the top. We want to excel. So that's the Excel mindset. But then also the Excel model is what teachers should be doing in those classrooms every day. And Excel stands for engage, explore, communicate, empower, and launch. And I'm going to give you just a few examples of those. Engage, simply greeting at the door, or greeting at the bus door, or greeting as they come to practice. Explore, good things, learning more about them, building that relationship. Communication, that should be a two-way process in classrooms or on the field. Solar listening is an example of communication, where you square up, you have open posture, you have eye contact, you lean in, and you respond, not just say something, but you respond hoping to further a discussion. So, paraphrasing or open-ended questions. Empower, that's where we want them to use and do what we're teaching, what we're modeling. And so some examples of empowering is through that social contract, and then the 4 questions for discipline that are very effective. And then finally, launch. We want to end and send in a positive way. We want to summarize what they gained from the coach or the teacher that day. We want to summarize, and then we also want to send them off on a very positive note. Another thing is that we do have the expectation in Carroll County Schools that our administrators and our supervisors lead staff meetings with that Excel model. And then also, just because I just wanted to give you the opportunity, we brought some manuals, if anybody wants to pick up a Capturing Kids' Hearts manual. So they're on the table back there.
So in addition to Capturing Kids' Hearts, all of our schools also implement positive behavioral interventions and supports, or PBIS. And so PBIS is an evidence-based framework that's aimed at improving student behavior and creating a positive school environment. It emphasizes proactive strategies by defining and teaching and then supporting those appropriate student behaviors. So each school creates a school-wide rubric that clearly defines their behavioral expectations in positive terms across all school environments. So they have those expectations for their classrooms, their hallways, the bathrooms, cafeteria, playgrounds, media center, anywhere where you have students that congregate. All 23 of our schools are recognized by the Georgia Department of Education as active PBIS schools. PBIS is actually a framework and is implemented in 3 tiers. So tier 1 is that universal provision that is for all students, and we really want at least 80% or more of our students to respond to that universal prevention that we have in place. But then we have students who need additional supports. So we have tier 2 supports, and those are for those students who are at risk for some behavioral issues. And we look at that data and then we address it through small group interventions, looking at social skills, or even some types of check-in, check-out supports. Tier 3 is focused on more intensive intervention, and that is individualized for students. And we are really looking at students on that individual level, what are their specific needs, and what can we do to help them and to address those. So many times when people hear PBIS, they think of parties and these incentives that students receive and all the fun components. But really one of the main components of it is its database decision making. So each school has a team that meets monthly and looks at their behavioral data and then determines action steps that they can take over the course of the month to address any areas of concern. School counselors also help support PBIS by using that data to help their guidance classroom lessons or even their small group sessions. And then for students who need additional support beyond what our counselors can provide, those counselors can take that data and then make referrals to Willowbrook or potentially to our social workers. And I'm going to let Lee now give a little bit more information about those supports that they can receive.
Okay, we are very pleased to have an agreement with Tanner, with Willowbrook at Tanner. And once again, thank you for that, for making that possible. But counselors can make referrals to the Willowbrook school-based therapists. We have school-based therapists that serve our schools. And it's when the students need additional support. And maybe they don't have the support at home to get to appointments in the afternoon, or maybe mom and dad can't take off. So we bring that school-based therapy to school. And so just to give you some data, we had 405 students that were served last year in our schools through the school-based therapist for a total of 3,178 sessions. So that's pretty remarkable because I'm not sure all of those kids could have gotten those services otherwise. Also, for students that need more intensive support from that school-based therapy, there is the PHP program, which stands for Partial Hospitalization Program. That's usually 4 to 6 weeks. And our students who are in that program, they will come to school for part of the day. They get picked up by Willowbrook and they go to the Willowbrook facility and stay there through the evening to receive services. And some data on that, this year alone, this past year, we had 151 students who benefited from the Partial Hospitalization Program in Carroll County School System. We are very blessed that we have a team of very strong social workers, 8 social workers who are very passionate about serving our students and families. And so when there's a need, whether it's a physical need, an emotional need, a referral can be made from an administrator, a teacher, a nurse, counselors, and anybody can make a sworn referral, and we track those, so we know the number of how many referrals our social workers address in a year.
So in order to capture all of the great things that schools are implementing for students and staffs, a social emotional wellness leadership rubric was created. In addition to the rubric, we have 8 teachers from various grade bands and school clusters who were recommended and selected to act as social emotional wellness ambassadors starting this next school year. Those ambassadors will act as a liaison for schools in order to support that alignment and fidelity of this important work. Some of the responsibilities that the ambassadors, that will include presenting a session during TIP for the new teachers that are coming on board on classroom management and how it aligns with social emotional wellness. They will also participate in school climate walkthroughs, and they will work on developing and delivering professional learning at the district level and at the school level.
And as Leslie briefly told you about that social emotional wellness leadership rubric, we are very excited that it also includes the importance of respectful relationships among staff members and support for our employees. So that's a part of that rubric also. We do believe that we take care of the adults, they're going to take care of our children. So we're very passionate in HR about that. I'm going to just give you a few highlights about some things that we offer as far as employee support. We do have an employee assistance program. We have the agreement with Tanner, and we have Engage EAP. Employees can choose to go to EAP, and we don't know anything about it. That information is confidential. Sometimes we have to make a mandatory referral when employees having some difficulty with their work performance. They're struggling, and we have to do a mandatory referral. Again, that information is confidential, but we are able to know if they go or not, and we get a fit for duty letter. So this is very, when an employee is struggling, we want to make sure they're the best that they can be in a classroom for those students. So they're very important to us that they give us fit for duty letters. Some data from EAP for 23 and 24. They serve a total of 330 employees and dependents. Because not only do we serve our employees, but the dependents in their home can also be served. 96 employees utilized counseling services. 234 employees were served through trainings, presentations, or critical incident response, such as when there's a death of a student or a staff member at school. EAP will go in there to support our employees. So I can't say enough good things about this support. And then also, we have an employee well-being dynamic team, and that's myself. I have our lead nurse on that team. I have our benefits specialist. I have a coach, and I have an assistant principal. And so the focus of that is just to provide an ongoing culture of well-being for our employees in multiple aspects. So we survey them to see what do you need. And so some of the things that come from that dynamic team are monthly offerings, the district health challenge. Sometimes it's just information about, this is breast cancer month, or it's the EAP information, financial wellness seminars. Those have been very well received. So we hope to tremendously elevate what we offer next year. So in summary, I think we've told you about some great things we have going on, thanks to you. And we're excited about continuing the work and really taking it to a higher level, elevating. So we welcome any questions or comments that you have.
Anybody have any questions?
I've got one.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this program integrated in the day-to-day curriculum?
So both PPIS and Capturing Kids' Hearts, yes, they are integrated. They're a framework for how teachers build those relationships with students and how they treat each other in the classroom. So it is just an integration of best practices for how we teach and how we build relationships with each other in the buildings.
Okay, my next question is this. I believe I heard you say that you help teachers when they are struggling with mental health issues.
Yes.
Okay, do you make that decision by observation, or do you take them to a doctor, or how is that handled?
Well,
sometimes employees will ask for help, and we're able
Oh, okay.
to get them to the right people. If there's certain situations where we need to recommend it, we will recommend it as well and make it mandatory. But we do not escort the employee to the program.
Oh, okay. I'm still a bit crazy.
We do, our administrators, we have trained them on what to look for when a teacher is
Okay.
struggling. And they reach out to us and we consult with them about whether we think it would be, we can offer this as an option or whether it needs to be mandatory. Because unfortunately, we have had some employees who have not been in a good place and they have discussed with other coworkers that they are thinking of hurting themselves or something worse. And so we make that, we notify the next of kin and we make that referral.
Now, when you make that decision, do you follow the HIPAA guidelines?
There's a tremendous deal of confidentiality. All we do is we make that referral.
Okay.
I will give them, Mr. Rufus and I, or we will give them the information about what the employee is struggling with. And then they just simply let us know if the employee goes or not. And if they're fit for duty to be in that classroom or on that bus or in that lunchroom.
Any other questions? You said something about the training. I think the number you said was we have about 1,000 people that have been trained in this area as far as staff. How do they, is that just made available to anybody and then they sign up electively, or is that something that we choose, or how do you get into that pool, or how do they choose not to?
I have to affirm our superintendent here, okay? When we first started training, doing this with Capturing Kids' Hearts, that company wanted us to just focus on one school. And Mr. Cowart said, I wanted to touch every school in this district. So, like this summer, we had 150 slots. We had 3 sessions. So we had 150 slots. So we allocate spots to schools and based on size.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm just curious how that process gets, how you get in line for that, and if there's a limit, or if there's, hoping that folks will sign up, and just sort of, it's sort of both ways.
We usually do have a waiting
A waiting
list.
list, because once people
That's
come
good.
through
Then
it,
that's a good sign. I think that's the point I was trying to get to, is to see what the incentive or what the interest is,
The feedback that we get from Capturing Kids' Hearts and Coaching Greatness, it just speaks for itself.
Good.
the word of mouth between the teachers and the buildings is we have people wanting to sign up to
Good.
go to the next summer.
That's great.
It really is.
And in fact, we've looked at grant opportunities to have additional sessions.
Okay, very good.
One thing I might add to that, if any of you would ever like to go to one of those sessions to see, that we would invite you. We've got 2 more sessions coming up, and I'll get Mike and send those dates out to you. We would welcome you. And I think it would be something well worth your time if you had the ability to come watch, even for an hour or so, what happens in those sessions.
That'd be great. I'd love for us to hear what goes on. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
So we have one on July 15th, 16th, and July 17th, 18th. So July 15th, 16th, and then July 17th, 18th.
Good. Any other questions or anything? If not, thank you very much for sharing. We appreciate that report, and thanks for updating us. We know this is very, very important. We know to our superintendent and across our county, and it is to us also, and we appreciate you guys leading the charge to make this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is review of policy IDCG honors program. This was provided to you guys at the May work session. We requested for it to line the table for feedback. We have received 1 positive feedback in regards to the changes and support. I would like to recommend that this is coming from our grading dynamic team, that we place it on the consent agenda for Thursday night and adoption.
Okay. Anyone object to that?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
There's something about, I'm trying to pull it back up, there's something about the dual enrollment. Something about the children were in dual enrollment, but their grades came in after the end of the counties.
Yeah, it's on the middle of that first page. Can I read it for you, Mr.?
If you don't mind.
Students taking one or more dual enrollment credit courses shall not be excluded from eligibility from determinations for valedictorian and salutatorian, except where a student's enrolled after his or her sophomore year and has not taken any courses on site at the participating high school. Is that the one?
No, what I'm thinking about down here, it said grades earned through a dual enrollment program will not count toward valedictorian and salutatorian ranking if the college grading period ends after the Carroll County Schools ending date.
Yes, so we work with the University of West Georgia, and they provide the grades earlier than a typical grading calendar. In fact, we have a meeting with them today to ensure that our grades would be received, so we can calculate valedictorian and salutatorian. There are many students that don't just go to the University of West Georgia. There's some cases that they may pick. We had someone select the University of Alabama, and we can't control all of the universities, but what we have is our current partners. We do over-communicate to make sure that a majority of those students are received.
So my 2 cents on all of this is, going forward, I think it would be great if we could establish at the counselor level or at the principal that we clearly communicate to these students. Even if you go find, okay, what's the top 20 in this class? You don't get to do it to everybody, but the top 20 or whatever number you want to pick, say, we're going to meet once a quarter, you're going to know the rules. So you don't come up at the end and say, well, my Alabama score didn't get counted because it was after what? You know, there shouldn't be any surprises.
Communication is something that we always want to improve upon, and currently we meet at the beginning of the year with students, but we need to meet more regularly, and I would extend that to also include our parents, and making sure our parents regularly are updated, starting in the 9th grade year.
I meant to say that too, we need the parents to know the rules just as well as the students.
So let me ask a question. So this will change it to the valedictorian and the salutatorian will be determined at the end of the year, not the third 9 weeks.
Correct. Out of our grading dynamic team, we evaluated that this policy was established quite a long time ago, and we have more students participating in dual enrollment. And through our grading dynamic team, they studied multiple school districts across the state. Some districts calculated at the end of first semester their senior year, and then when our grading dynamic team looked at other systems, they went through the full second semester, and that's our recommendation.
And finally, there's tiebreakers. So are the tiebreakers such that nobody could, because like I noticed, which wasn't a big deal, but I noticed that Temple had 2 salutatorians, not that it was in the world to me, but so they obviously tied.
They did not. We had a situation where a professor changed a grade, and ensuring that we honored the student that was initially recognized with that 2 students.
Okay, I think that's a good solution. I was curious about that.
Okay. Question. If you are going to denote that at the end of the second semester, will that delay graduation in any way?
No, ma'am, our seniors finish a little earlier for that very reason, is we want our counselors to receive all the final grades and their final exams, dual enrollment grades, and then they'll get into a room and calculate before graduation ceremony.
And I also understand that, if everybody knows the same rules and they can all play the same game, if you will, that some students take like an AP course, but then one says, ooh, I'm not doing good, drop it, and take an easy course and get the A and leap in front of them. So the parents need to understand those rules too.
It's become very competitive.
And those kids know, they know. They're competitive in themselves.
Yeah.
All right, is it okay to leave this placed on the consent agenda?
The only other question I had was about the administrative rule. It just talks about the different courses and the different, is that pretty much okay? There's no
So
stuff around the peripheral.
Now, we added the Spanish 3 in our regulation back in May, and that was to align with our advanced academic pathway. It was confusing for parents and students when advanced academic pathway didn't align with the regulation.
Which is kind of tough pill to swallow. We had a young lady who got third in her class, but on her final report card, said her class ranking was number 2. After factoring in the fourth or the second semester.
Yeah.
Again, I'm privileged to, our grading dynamic team did excellent work with this, and I'm pleased to bring this to you guys and ask that we place on the consent agenda.
All right. Okay, next one.
Okay. Next item is our annual GNETS agreement. This was brought to you guys annually. This is programming in a joint relationship between Carrollton City, which has the Harry Morgan Center, that is students in elementary and middle school, and then our Carroll County Center, which is based at Central High School, and then Heard County also participates. You can see in the board is our annual agreement, and we recommend it be placed on the consent agenda for Thursday night.
Any questions about that? Okay, well, we'll place that on consent agenda.
And before we move it over, Mr. Kern, I would like to update you and the board. Last month, we had discussed our strategic waiver, and I just want to update the board that that was approved by the state board. So our strategic waiver of Carroll County Schools was approved at the state level, and will start on July 1st. So thank you for that work and getting that to our state board.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thanks, Dr. Ainsworth. We'll move now to stakeholder engagement by Mr. Coward.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to tell a quick story, I don't know how many times this happens every summer, but it's a bunch. I'll be out and about and see somebody in the community that, and I say, well, this is your easy time of year, isn't it? What do you do during the summer? And it happened today, actually. I was in the extension office and called Burke asking that question. But this is an extremely busy time of the year when it comes to all of our leaders, not at school level, district level, whatnot, because what people don't realize, this is the time of the year that we actually do our work. So to speak, to try to get ready to be able to meet the needs of students, parents, and staff during the school year. Really excited to share with you, every year we pick out kind of a theme for the year. This past year you heard us talk about whatever it takes, and we use that a lot. Our theme for this coming year is Elevate. So even if you noticed in the two ladies that were talking to you a minute ago, I think I counted that they used the word elevate 4 times in their conversation. And that's very conscious on their part and intentional on their part. That we try to help each of us recognize that as good as we are and as many things as we do well, there are opportunities to elevate what we do. And so we try to cascade that all the way down to the schools. And that's a big part of what we try to do in the summer is helping our schools and seeing what we can do to help them elevate.
Academic camps continue to get better and better at what we do for our students academically in the summer. Extracurricular camps are off the charts when you look at what we were doing 7 or 8 years ago versus what we're doing now. Our schools, each individual school has a school leadership advance where they bring in their leadership team and spend intentional time talking about, how this past year went, what went well, what could have gone better, what do we need to focus on for next year. A lot of efforts goes into that. The ladies earlier talked about trainings. Capturing kids' hearts is one example, but there's multiple trainings that are going on all summer where people are coming in and we're working with them on whatever need it may be that a school has or the district has. And then you got all the, I call them kickoff activities, the safety summit, the convocation, the teacher induction program, our actual leadership kickoff. All those things are the preparation and being able to execute and do those in a very, very quality fashion are so important. But it all comes down then to kind of one piece that when we think about elevating it was actually just shared just a minute ago in the conversation. The one thing we continue to try to look to elevate is communication. We talk to our people continuously that communication is the enemy that we never defeat. Communication is the enemy we never defeat. We work on it all the time, and we get really good in this part, and then something slips over here. And we go back over here, and we work on that part, and then something slips over here. So that's a big part of what we're looking to elevate in so many ways right now across the school system. But that's a good synopsis of the summer at this point. I would be glad to answer any questions if any board member has questions about the summer.
Dr. Brooks?
Are these leaders selected by their peers or the administration select the people to sit on the?
On which one?
You said there were a group of leaders.
For each school?
For each
So
school.
what each school does is they select a leadership team
Yes.
that's representative across the grade level and the different classifications of employees in that, and that's done differently at each school. We allow them the autonomy to do that, but it has to represent the entire faculty. And that's the group that meets throughout the year, to discuss, the data, discuss issues, to discuss, what needs to happen across the school. So every school has that leadership team. Typically, people will roll on and off about every 2 years so that they kind of spread the opportunity around to be part of it. But it's a good way for us sometimes to identify rising or promising leaders or, that may be interested in getting into actual formal
Yeah.
leadership roles. But that's kind of how it happens, Dr. Brooks.
Okay.
Any other questions about the summer update?
Sounds like a busy time.
Busy time, and it's shorter and shorter.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll move along now to organizational excellence by Mr. Glenn Hardy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to start out by giving a construction update. We've actually been pretty blessed this summer on the weather, and we're actually at a point where we're under the roofs, so we're excited about that. But I'll start with the Operations Center. As you can see in the photos here, the walls and the roofs are going on. I got a little nervous Friday. I went out there, the gold program, the mobiles were supposed to be delivered Friday morning. Had a little panic, but you can see that, actually, I didn't change the picture there, but we actually had the mobiles for the gold program come in after 5 o'clock on Friday. So they worked Friday and Saturday. So we're thrilled about that. We had an opportunity for you guys to come out and tour that. I know some of you weren't able to be there because of vacation or work. I extend that opportunity anytime. I'll come up with the date and Micah send something out to get you back out there if you're able to, or you can just let me know. But we're really excited. We anticipate hopefully by the end of August to start that transition. And Mr. Bissell and School Nutrition, Ms. Cross, and all our departments, Mr. Beers, all are working to put together a plan to make that transition as smooth as possible. So that's our Operations Center. As we go to Bay Springs, again, Bay Springs was a little bit slow getting started because of the weather, but now since we've had this good weather, we are really moving forward on the outside there, but we're also moving forward on the inside. If you walked into Bay Springs, you really can't even walk around the building because all the flooring has been ripped up, and our media center renovation has started as well. So we are working real close with our cleaning service because they're having to get a section cleared and cleaned, and then construction comes in there and starts doing their work. So a lot of, talking about communication, a lot of communication between the principal, the cleaning service, and the construction crew, and I just commend all three of those for working together to make sure that process gets done well before school starts back. Moving to Central High School, really excited about this one because we're actually ahead of schedule. As you can see, the brick veneer is on and the windows are in, and the classroom addition and the cafeteria is moving along really well. Moving to Villa Rica High School. Villa Rica High School is another one that I'm now excited about. We were really nervous with some of the areas with our classroom addition, and We're still not going to be ready for the opening day of school, but we're on track for our September date. I've been working with Dr. Badowski, and he feels good about that timeline. And with the enrollment changes that we have, they'll actually be okay and be able to start the year without that being a huge stressor. But as far as the inside, I don't know how many are familiar with this hallway here, but I call it the 400 hall in the middle. And that is much needed work. That plumbing and stuff was very, very dated. And I can tell you our plumber, Freddie, is probably happier than anyone because that is being replaced in this project as well. So that's a good addition there. And as you can see on the right here, that is actually going into the cafeteria in the main lobby. That's kind of the hub of the school. And that's totally being renovated and upgraded and make the flow a lot better for Villa Rica High School during the school day and accommodate their large lunches. So that's Villa Rica High School. As far as our North CCA, I wished I'd got out there today and took a picture because it actually looks different today. Yeah. If you go out there today, the block's going up, and that's moving really quick now, and we anticipate being in that. It'd be the last minute, but we're anticipating opening day with North CCA. Any questions on facilities and constructions?
Gotta have good weather.
Gotta have good weather. All right. Well, the good thing is, a lot of us inside now too, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next, we have, staying on the Operations Center, Transportation Center, naming request. We actually had someone, Mr. Chuck Harmon, request J.C. Daniel, a request to name the Transportation Department after J.C. Daniel. And looking at board policy, when you have this, the first step is someone recognizing or requesting, making this request. The second stage is bringing that to the board, and then the board, we would ask them to establish a committee made up of community members and 1 or 2 board members in this case, and then we would report back in July from that meeting. So I would like to ask that be placed on, actually that's information, but I would like for that to be considered by the board, and I open that up for discussion.
Could you give us some background on Mr. Daniels?
Yes, and I've got it on there, a little bit about J.C. Daniel, and most of it would come out in the committee meeting as far as more detailed. Give me 1 second, I apologize. But in the letters posted on there, but J.T. Daniels, he worked for the Carroll County Roads and Commissioners, and he was someone from 1960 to 1968. And the biggest thing is he partnered with Carroll County for many years on getting projects done, whether it's be road work, construction work, and things like that. So again, we would go in greater detail as far as what all he did and the reason the committee would be looking at naming that after him.
I might add to that, Dr. Brooks, he was actually the commissioner for Carroll County during that time. And so he was in charge of making the decisions to support the school system.
Kind of like a Horry Duncan.
He was yes. And there were a number of school projects that happened, and much like Horry, going back to what you're saying, Bart, that would not have happened without Mr. Daniel being a part of it. So I think that's where the request is coming from because of that leadership that he provided there.
I will say that I didn't know him, obviously, but when Villa Rica High School moved over in 1960, he was the commissioner, and then I do know that he had a lot to do with grading out and prepping the football field there at the high school, because for 8 years, it had been at the middle school, and I know the county was involved with that, and I always heard his name from older guys. I don't know much about him, but I didn't remember hearing that.
There were a number of projects like that where it did cost the school system to be able to get that support from the county. And we've been lucky through the years, not just with Mr. Daniels or Horry or going even into present time, to be able to get a lot of support from the county. So the Operations Center would be a good consideration if the board would entertain it.
Yeah.
There were a couple Times Georgian articles written too about him recognizing his partnership as a commissioner heavily with Carroll County Schools that some folks had shared with me in proposing this. So it was pretty obvious that it was a huge matter of record of his investment in the schools at the time when the commission had to be heavily involved.
Okay. I remember the name,
Do you?
but, you know, I
Yeah.
just wanted some
Sure.
support.
Kind of like you, Dr. Brooks, I remember the name, but I had to, this helped me figure out who it was and
Who
what he
he
did.
was, yes.
I did know the family personally, and I know the investment in the example he set for the ones that came after him, how important it is. So I think it's a great idea to put the committee together. Excuse me.
Do we have a couple of board members that would agree? This is a little bit different than our typical, usually we let the school principal kind of guide some of that, but this is not about one of the schools, so we would really rather a couple of board members kind of be on there to kind of guide that discussion, if that would be something that a couple of you would agree to do.
I'll be glad to participate.
I don't have a problem with participating.
Or anybody else, I don't care.
I think it'd be important to get people from around the county on the committee.
Yeah.
You know, because it's
I agree.
yeah.
Okay.
I'll be glad to let somebody else do it too now. Since the letter came to me, I don't mind it being, somebody else can take that spot, it'd be good too.
I do know a lot of the family, and I don't mind serving, but, it's up to the group.
If you all would prefer somebody out in the county, I would rescind my agreement.
I think we need two
Yeah, I think at least two.
board members.
Yeah, okay. So,
I'll be glad to.
and then we'll make sure that we select people from around the county to be on the committee to do that. So Glenn will work with you two ladies about setting up a time and having a discussion and seeing how that goes.
And we will move pretty fast, because we'll bring it back and report out to the board members in July. It would be my plan.
Okay.
All right.
I
Nick?
think,
Oh, sorry.
one last thing, I think it is important if you have a committee, maybe, and I'm all for this, but maybe they might have other suggestions. I mean, you don't ever know, because I didn't know we were gonna name it, but I mean, I doubt it, but you never know.
You do have some guidelines as to how you do
noticed
what
that.
you do. All right.
Yes.
I think what Carrie's talking about, that somebody else in the community is that what you're referring to?
Well, they could, or even if you got the committee together, and if it's a cross-section, I know we got the letter from Mr. Harmon, I'm not discounting that at all. But who's to say somebody else might, if you brought it up, so, we're looking to name this, because it is a big deal, to be a cross-section. I just wouldn't want to discount somebody if we forgot them, I don't know.
My 2 cents on that is, because it kind of came up at Bowden recently, everybody, we're not actually looking to name it.
Right.
So you have to honor the person that got there first, in my opinion. Because if you open it up to nominations, then y'all can have that committee.
I have been there too, so I say, let's be careful with your wording there.
Out there, and they say, well, I think so-and-so ought to be on it too, or I think so. Next thing you know, you got all kind of stuff.
All right.
We don't have a tight ship.
But I think you need to pick, if you do name a pretty substantial facility in our system after someone, it doesn't need to be just up and down yes because somebody sent a letter. I think it needs to, I think it needs to be a little more rigorous than naming the library after somebody or something like that.
All right. Next, proposed school nutrition vendor. There you go. It's on you. You just go with it, Glenn. We'll let us know when you're done tonight, okay?
All right, so, School Nutrition, this is the vendor packet, and this is where they want to re-up their vendors, so that's attached there, from the FY '24 to the FY '25, and we would like for that to be on the consent agenda for Thursday night.
No objections, we'll do that.
Next, we have the lease at 997 Noonan Road. This is behind the technical college, the old technical college here. We discussed this back in February as far as leasing this for our CTE program, and we agreed upon that, but the paperwork and the lease agreement is now prepared by the county and sent to us, and we ask for that to also be on the consent agenda for Carroll County Schools to rent that facility for our programs.
This is the building we would be putting the new construction pathway in. Remember, we worked out an agreement with the county where we can lease this building for $10 a year.
$10.
Through 2029.
Number of years?
Through 2029.
Okay.
And then it has an option for possible renewal after, beyond that.
Do we have a teacher for that program yet?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. Nobody objects? All right. Next.
Okay, next, we have a MOU with our partner Willowbrook. You heard earlier, the ladies raving about Willowbrook and our partnership and what all they provide for our students. And we would like to re-up that partnership for FY25 and ask that to also be on the consent agenda. Any questions there? All right, next, we have Temple Middle School capital outlay resolution. Basically, that project has been completed. We're in the final stages of that. And basically, we are asking, there's documents that have to be provided to the Department of Education. We ask that the district recommends, the board approve this attached resolution where we can draw down the remaining amount of money from the Georgia DOE. And that is from Temple Middle School.
That project turned out very good, too. It looks nice, and it's very well thought out.
Thank you for that. All right, place that on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, there's one last thing. It's the field trips and fundraising request. It's also on e-board for your viewing. We ask that that is placed on the consent agenda for Thursday night as well.
Anybody object to that?
I'll just say I'm glad Mr. Keskus is not on the board. There's more chocolate and donuts and butter braids. I don't even know what butter braids are.
This is the largest one. This is where the principals work with their programs to get it in for the following years.
I have a question. It may not be the right place to ask it, but I noticed there was a couple of biggies on there where 50,000, 10,000, that's biggie to me. So that money, they raise it, it goes into their checking account, and whatever they do with it we're not accountable for any of that, right? We just approve them of doing it.
Yes.
Okay.
Most of all of the fundraising requests that are sent in are put in by the coach or the teachers that, and it goes to their program in which they're putting them in. The larger ones are usually probably your bands.
Booster Club, I believe, was one.
But we have,
Booster Club.
that's right.
But that money goes into an account that we don't write checks from, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, we have
We provide some oversight, don't we?
We do. We have our coaches and our teachers, the school level, put in all fundraisers regardless of PTO, athletics, band, but you are correct. I mean, we do have oversight on that, but it goes into their account.
Okay, then.
So for example, a booster club, the athletic director, if it's athletics, and the principal are ex officio, and we still keep if I remember right, those budgets go to each office in the school and.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
They're not audited as far as our audit system, right? Or are they?
Yeah, they audit those books.
I'm sorry.
Funds that are accounted for at the school, that are accounted for under the principal, those are audited annually internally as well as included in the annual audit that the entire district is subject to.
Okay.
Yes.
And as far as like the stadium message boards, we don't have to approve that fundraiser, because they make a ton of money every year on that, but we don't
Advertising.
actually approve that every year, do we? They just, go out and sell advertisement space and.
Yep.
And it goes into the same account, I guess?
Usually the athletic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do they share it? Or do, just one particular sport gets all of it?
Well, I think they share it sports-wise, but not.
Dr. Brooks, they actually do share, all 5 of our high schools have a plan put in place now where it's across it's not just athletics. The band's involved, the school itself's involved, and athletics is involved. It looks a little different every school, but that is shared throughout the entire school.
Okay.
All right. We'll place that on consent agenda. Thank you very much, Mr. Harding. We'll move to the financial section by Ms. Wolf.
All right, thank you, Mr. Turner. For the April financial report, first we have a summary of the month-to-date and year-to-date transactions through April for each of the 4 funds. For the general fund, revenues were 12.7 million, expenditures were 14.2 million. After adjustments, fund balance is 41.1 million with 5.6 million in outstanding encumbrances. For SPLOST 5, total expenditures were 783.9 thousand, the balance of 213.3 thousand as SPLOST 5 is winding down. Moving on to SPLOST 6, collections were 1.8 million, which is a 1.3% increase. And then expenditures in April total 744.1 thousand with 10 million balance for the scheduled projects. Lastly, we have a report of the school activity accounts for the 3rd quarter of the fiscal year, January through March, which captures the inflows and outflows for each of the school accounts, as well as the encumbrances for those accounts. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Next, I have an update on the fiscal year 25 budget. In the budget timeline for this month in June, the budget is scheduled to be adopted by the board at Thursday's meeting. Next up would be the tentative and final adoption of the millage rate. The county is currently working on finalizing the digest. Right now, the draft FY25 budget includes an estimated 8% increase in local property taxes, as well as an 8% increase in state QBE funding. Since last month's meeting, there have been 3 updates to the budget assumptions. We've received updated information about the GNETS program. Our estimates for interest revenues for the upcoming year have been increased. Previously, those were estimated to be a decrease. And then lastly, we've received additional information about increases in pre-K grant funding for next year. For the items for budget consideration for FY25, these are the new recurring or non-recurring items. As requested by the board at last month's meeting, the amount for school resource officers has been increased, which included the annual contract renewal increase, $6,000 pay increase, as well as the addition of 4 SROs. Within eBoard, the summary of the total budget for each of the funds is included, as well as details by object for the general fund, as well as the final I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
Are we calculating this based on the 117.00 locally?
Okay, the budget is, for the, local revenues is not calculated specifically on, any specific millage rate. It is, estimated, at a, almost 8% increase. In the discussions that I've had with the, tax assessor's office, is that they, are seeing growth, both from the reassessment as well as growth, in new and improved properties. And when I last spoke with them, they were, trying to wrap up their numbers, and so that that could be published as soon as possible.
Is the additional dollars for that past position, is it in the budget somewhere?
Yes.
I'd like to point out what she said about pre-K. It's kind of exciting. The state's increased the amount of money they're giving us to help pay for pre-K teachers. So pre-K teachers previously were paid at just a slightly less rate than normal teachers, but they've given enough money now to bring it up to a par level. So I think that's a good thing.
That's good.
Yeah, for our pre-K teachers.
Yeah.
And we really didn't anticipate that was going to happen, so that was a good thing.
So maybe we having a lot of people paying the lottery. Thinking they
I think there are a lot of people that do.
Anyway.
Fortunate, unfortunate, I mean, I'll leave editorializing up, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Wolf. We appreciate that presentation, and just continue to keep us updated. All right, this time we'll move on to continuous improvement by Mr. Jerry Griffiths.
Good evening, Board. Human Resources Department has been busy preparing for the teacher induction program in late July. And we're also busy closing out a productive hiring season. Approximately, there are 140 new certified employees. We'll add some more to that number over the next month, I'm sure. But most of our positions have been hired out, and our schools are very close to being fully staffed. So the first thing on the agenda there under continuous improvement is to review the policy GBC. And that's the updated GBC policy that was presented at the May 16th, 2024 board meeting. It's been lying on the table for public comment. We recommend the policy to be placed on the consent agenda for Thursday, June 20th, 2024.
Okay. No one objects. We'll place that on consent agenda.
The next three agenda items are reviews of board policies affected by new or amended laws from the most recent legislative session. Our attorneys have advised us to amend our policies in these areas to be in compliance with the new expectations from the state. The first is a review of the GARH policy, which covers employee leave. The state legislature increased the maximum amount of allowed paid parental leave during a rolling 12-month period to increase from 120 hours to 240 hours. The draft policy is attached for the board's consideration. The only change is removing 120 hours and replacing it with 240 hours. Next, we are recommending changes to policy JGCD, our medication policy. Schools are now required by state law to make an effort to have an opioid antagonist such as Narcan on hand in the event of a possible opioid overdose. The draft policy is attached for the board's consideration. And lastly, we are recommending a change to policy JCEB, student hearing procedure. Amended state law now requires hearings to be held within 15 days instead of the 10 days currently listed in our policy. The draft policy is attached for the board's consideration. We recommend these three policies lie on the table until the July work session scheduled for July 15th for the purposes of collecting public input.
Okay. All right.
As you also see in e-board, there's an MOU for consideration. The MOU is an agreement to allow Berry College to place education student interns in our schools for their learning experiences to complete their programs. We request this MOU to be placed on the consent agenda for Thursday evening.
Okay. No questions, we'll place that on consent agenda. All right, thank you, Mr. Griffiths. Anything else?
That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. A lot of updates there. We heard about these updates at the GSBA conference this past summer. All three of those, along with many others. But I did recognize those from the meeting, so. All right, yeah, we heard a lot of them, didn't we, Tom? All right. We'll move on now to our second public meeting for the 24-25 budget. Ms. Wolf?
So this is the second of two public meetings to provide an opportunity for input on the budget for next year before the budget is adopted by the board, which is scheduled on Thursday. The tentative budget was approved on May 13th. The proposed budget includes an increase in state and local revenues, but a decrease in federal revenues. The priority is instruction, with 67% of the general fund budget allocated to instruction, followed by operations, safety, and other student support services. The majority, 84% of the general fund budget is invested in personnel. It includes both raises for personnel as well as the benefit cost increases that are based on the rates that are set by the state. Other investments include instruction, physical and cybersecurity, buses, a one-time investment of $3.5 million for the operations center. It also includes the final funds for the ARP ESSER funds, which also is prioritized to instruction at 79%. And overall, the total government fund budget supports over 16,000 students, 23 schools, and 2 college and career academies, and a variety of programs. This time, I would turn it back over to you, Mr. Turner, to provide that opportunity for input.
Okay. I see no public input options for tonight, so we'll consider this second public hearing finished. Any general public input? There's no one here tonight. Any business items? All right. We need to review the agenda for the June 20th, 2024 board meeting. Any changes or adjustments there?
Let me ask for a point of clarification, Ms.
Okay.
Maynard. Is there a tribunal appeal scheduled prior to the meeting Thursday night?
It's been pushed to July.
Okay, being pushed to July. Okay, all right, thank you.
All right. No tribunal then. Okay, at this time, I need a recommendation that the board meet in executive session to discuss the future acquisition of real estate, safety, and security personnel pending or threatened litigation, and recommendations that are exempt from the disclosure under the Open Records Act.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, if
Chair,
not.
would you like to stay in here or go to the next room?
Second, we adjourn executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, a motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Very good. This time I need a recommendation that the board approve the personnel actions as presented by the superintendent.
I'll make that motion, Butcher.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All in favor raise your right hand. All right, very good. All right, this time any board member comments?
I had a question about the bill. It may not be what you thought, but what are the plans for the security back there at that parking lot? Have y'all extended your Vigilon or anything like that?
Yeah, no, that's what I thought you were gonna ask. So, we met twice with the developer and, owner of the apartments, and, one of the things, we verified what they're doing. And thank goodness they've got a good plan of what they're doing on their side. And then we are, on our side, we're extending internet back to the baseball field so that we have cameras all the way back to the back. There'll be some gating and fencing changes around our property. But the big thing is they're putting a solid fence between us and them. And as well as, they're putting some trees. We were gonna be prepared to put in some trees and some buffer, but they're gonna do it. So it actually is gonna save us money, so that's good. But the hard part was getting the internet access back to the backside of it. So we had to take some trees and things down to be able to,
Line of sight.
direct it.
So you will have your Wi-Fi and stuff back there. That'd be good.
Any other board member comments? Dr. Brooks?
I'd just like to share the information that I received during the delegate session. There was lots of discussion from several boards about board members being elected nonpartisan. They want to go back to party line. And we stayed in there a good long while because we were saying to them, it's about the children. It isn't about Democrat or Republican. But they were adamant about getting board members elected partisan-wise. I mean, there were 4 or 5 who came to the mic insisting that we vote for that, and of course, we overrid the decision. And of course, I would believe they're gonna bring it up again, but one of the board members said each time she went out campaigning, they asked her, are you Democrat or Republican? So she wants, as we discussed, for us to go back to the partisan. And also, there was some concerns about a reduction in the millage that, and that came from Colquitt County to A20, where they wanted to lower the millage rate below 14 mills so that they can continue to receive the equalization funding. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So those were the hot topics for that day.
So GSBA didn't agree to the.
No, we didn't agree to any of it. We took our frisbees and we voted it down.
Thank you for doing that for us, Dr. Brooks, for serving.
Also like to comment at the conference, some things that I heard and I was really surprised at and didn't realize how blessed we are in Carroll County to have our SPLOST. But there are school systems that do not have SPLOST, that are making cuts, trying to figure out how to keep programs going. We are very blessed in this community to have SPLOST, and we need to continue to encourage and educate our community that why we have what we have is because of SPLOST. And everybody shares with SPLOST. Everybody that buys something in Carroll County helps pay for our school system. So I want to remind everybody else too that it's so important. The other thing I want to say is our budget system has gone seamless this time. I mean, you have made it so wonderful for us, and I understand everything so much better than I have previously. So thank you to all the staff. We are very blessed to have wonderful staff. I had heard other people talking about their staff, how they couldn't get answers to questions and they were not welcome in their buildings and things. So thank you for the job you do. I really do appreciate it, everybody.
Ask. For the new people in the transitions, could we get copies of the job description?
Yes, ma'am. We'll try to have those for you in July.
Okay.
All right, any other comments? If not, I need to move a second. We adjourn.
So move. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Have to stay late. That's right.